I started in advertising with zero experience, zero network, and I had no idea what I was doing. Fast forward almost 10 years, I'm now working across global brands in a lot of different industries. And if I had to become a media buyer again from scratch in 2026, I would approach it completely differently. AI is obviously completely changing the industry. The platforms are getting smarter, and simply just knowing where all the buttons are in the advertising platforms just isn't enough anymore. The best media buyers don't just understand the platforms, they understand businesses, consumer psychology, and how to use advertising skills to solve business problems. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through everything that I would focus on if I were to start again in 2026. The first thing I'd do is pick one or two advertising platforms and become really good at them. Maybe that's Google ads, maybe that's Facebook and Instagram ads, maybe it's LinkedIn ads, TikTok ads, Reddit ads. Whatever it is, I wouldn't try learning everything all at once, and there are two reasons for this. The first reason is if you're getting good at one or two platforms, that'll get you working with clients so much faster. And that's what we want. We want real life experience. If you try to learn 6 platforms at a time, it's very easy to get stuck in theory and learning mode for a really long time. You watch one video on Google ads and one video on TikTok ads, and then another on Meta ads. End up knowing a little bit about everything, but not enough to confidently help somebody grow their business. The second reason is you could become an expert a lot faster by focusing on one or two different platforms instead of being average across all of them. And we don't need any more average media buyers in the industry. Over time, you'll notice that your skills are transferable and applicable across many different platforms anyway, and you can do that much easier down the line when you're an expert at one or two. But when you're just starting out, I would lean into 2 platforms max and build depth first into those 2 platforms before you start expanding across other platforms. Also, because there's constantly new platforms coming out where you can run advertising on. ChatGPT, for example, just made advertising available on their platform. Be surprised at how quickly you can familiarize yourself with a completely new advertising platform when you already have the knowledge, the experience, and the expertise as a media buyer across previous platforms. The next thing that I would focus on is getting results for real clients. In 2026, there are a lot of media buyers, but there are a lot fewer great media buyers. Clients don't retain you because you know how to set up and launch a campaign. They retain you because since hiring you, their business just kept on growing. So instead of becoming obsessed with media buying alone, become obsessed with figuring out how your skills can help businesses grow. That's really the mindset shift. You're not just learning Google Ads. Learning how Google Ads can help businesses generate more inquiries, more sales, book jobs, more revenue, more profit. That's what people are actually paying you for. Now, there's obviously so much free content out there. You can watch YouTube, you can read blogs, you can chat to ChatGPT, you can do certifications if you'd like, but I would be selective with who you're actually learning from. You want to choose a couple people who you actually trust. People who have a long history of doing the thing that you're actually trying to learn to do. And more importantly, people who are actively doing the work right now. There are a lot of people out there teaching and selling advertising courses that aren't really in the trenches anymore. And that matters because the market and the technology are all changing really, really quickly. What worked even just a year ago isn't working today. The platforms are different, AI is constantly evolving, and the way that people buy is different and it's constantly changing. So learn from the people who are still actively doing the work every single day. Once you learn the theory, you have to actually run campaigns for real accounts. There's no shortcut really around experience. You need to experience campaigns that succeed, campaigns that fail, and you need to make a lot of different mistakes. And honestly, the faster you make those mistakes, the faster you learn and grow, and the faster you stop making those mistakes, especially on real life accounts. That's really how you develop judgment. So I try to get real experience as quickly as possible. One of the biggest skills that you can develop as a media buyer is learning how to diagnose problems. Anyone can open an ad account and see that their click-through rate has dropped. Even your client can do that, so why would they hire you? If click-through rate drops or any other performance metric in the account, you should instantly already have a short list of 2 to 3 likely causes. Has the creative fatigued? Has the audience changed? Has the offer gone stale? Has search intent changed? Did a competitor enter the market more aggressively? Then you investigate those hypotheses, identify the root cause, and prioritize the highest impact fix over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Great media buyers don't just report on the problems. They diagnose them and they advise their clients on exactly what to do next to rectify whatever just happened. That's what they're really paying you for. The next mindset shift is to stop thinking like a platform specialist. Years ago, you could build a really successful career just being really, really good at Google ads or Facebook and Instagram ads. Today, that's just becoming a lot harder. You understand landing pages, offers, conversion rate optimization, sales process, creative. Because in my experience, sometimes when results drop, the ads aren't actually the problem. I've audited many accounts where the campaign structure was fine, the targeting was fine, the keywords were fine, the creative was fine, but the business still wasn't getting the results that they wanted. And that's because the real bottleneck was somewhere else. If all you understand is the ad account, you'll struggle to identify the real bottlenecks that's actually preventing businesses from financially growing. One example of this is the sales process. You might have a Google Ads account that looks pretty healthy, good click-through rate, good cost per click, good conversion rates, leads are coming through really consistently, but the business still isn't converting enough of those leads into customers. So instead of spending all of your time trying to find an issue within the ad account, you need to look at the entire customer acquisition process. What happens after somebody inquires? How quickly does the business respond? What does the sales conversation actually look like? Are they following up properly? Are they asking the right questions? Are they handling objections properly? There are so many situations where the issue isn't in the advertising platform at all. The issue was how the leads were being handled after they came through. Once the sales process improved, the same advertising budget started producing a lot better results. So no change in the ad account, just a change in their sales process. And on that note, you have to understand the entire customer journey. Most people don't buy after seeing one ad. They might see your ad on Instagram, they'll Google your business, read your reviews, visit your website, they leave and then they come back a few days later, click a retargeting ad, read another page, and then they actually inquire. That's why the customer journey doesn't start and end within the ad account. I had a client who started with 0 Google reviews. We were getting inquiries through the Google ads, but one thing we focused on and prioritized was asking every single customer to leave a Google review. Over time, the business built up over 100 5-star Google reviews. The ads were still bringing people to the website. Now, when people searched and checked out the business, there was a lot more trust there, which meant that more of the clicks turned into inquiries and more of the inquiries turned into actual sales. That's a perfect example of why media buying isn't just really media buying. The ads got the people's attention, the reviews helped create trust, and the website helped convert the traffic. All of those things work together. Organic affects paid, paid affects organic, landing page helps sales, sales make you more money. The best media buyers understand how all of it works together. And this is where consumer psychology becomes really important. You need to learn why people buy, what motivates them, what they're afraid of, what objections they have, where they're getting confused, generally where the friction points are. And very often, those friction points aren't sitting within the technical side of the ad account. Maybe the problem is trust. People don't trust you enough yet. Maybe the landing page is too slow or clunky. Maybe your wording doesn't mirror your customer's language and actual train of thought. Maybe the offer isn't clear. Maybe the next step feels like way too much commitment. Maybe the business looks exactly like every other competitor out there. That's where consumer psychology applies. Because at the end of the day, we're not advertising to algorithms, we're advertising to actual humans. The platforms might help you reach people, but people still need to feel enough trust, enough clarity, and they need to have some sort of motivation to take action. Then there's AI. A lot of people are worried about AI replacing media buyers, and they are. They are replacing parts of the media buying process. The lower level work, the repetitive tasks, basic research, first drafts, reporting, and admin. Personally, I use AI pretty much every single day to replace my thinking, but to make me a lot faster. It can help me brainstorm ideas, analyze information, summarize customer research, and just speed up content. It's not deciding the strategy for my clients, because that's my job. You just want to think of AI as your digital assistant. You're still the strategist, you're still making the decisions. AI is just helping you get there faster. And honestly, if you're trying to become a media buyer in 2026, you should definitely be using AI. Not because it'll do the job for you, but because knowing how to leverage AI properly will help you move a lot faster than the people who don't. Something else I wish I did sooner is just documenting and sharing my processes and everything that I'm learning. Posting on LinkedIn, starting a YouTube channel, writing blogs, sharing what you're testing, what you're noticing, your wins, your mistakes, just documenting what you're learning and what you're seeing, and then over time your content becomes this massive portfolio and it shows people how you think, how you problem solve, and it just shows your point of view. And in a market where a lot of people are saying a lot of the same things, having your own point of view and your own personal brand really helps build trust and credibility in your industry. The last thing that I'll leave you with is probably the biggest mindset shift, and if you take anything away from this video, it should just be this one thing. And that is, media buying isn't just setting up and launching campaigns anymore. Media buying in 2026 is a lot broader now. You have to leverage those media buying skills and expand your knowledge into a lot of different other areas so that you know how to help businesses acquire and retain customers profitably. And that doesn't start and end within the ad account. The ad account is just one piece of the puzzle. And if you focus only on campaigns, you will be replaceable. If you understand how advertising fits into the bigger picture of business growth, that's the direction the industry is moving towards. Platforms are getting smarter, AI is getting better, technical work is becoming a lot easier to automate. So your value has to come from judgment, strategy, diagnosis, consumer psychology, business understanding, and knowing how to use advertising as part of a bigger customer acquisition system. Okay, hopefully that helped. If you have any questions, do let me know.